Big podcast where big energy, big ideas, and big results are just the beginning. I'm your host, Randi Whitney, and whether you're in year 1 or year 20, we're here to fuel your passion and help you teach big in every single way. That's right, B-I-G. Here, education is inspired, energy is required, and a support for teachers is absolutely non-negotiable. So, before we get started with our guest today, this is actually a part 2. This is Rylie Saylor. She's principal of a preschool in Kima, Texas named Strawberry Fields. And we just went all slumber party in episode 1 of our time together. And so we tend to talk a lot about what we love the most. We do. So if you don't mind, hop on over, watch episode 1 so that you get the foundation for this, and then tune right back in, because then we'll take part 2 together and we'll continue our conversation. See you after you've seen part 1. So sometimes people underestimate what young kids are capable of, right? I mean, we hear that a lot. But what is something that you wish more parents and maybe even educators understood about early childhood education?
I think I go back to that those kiddos are learning at such a level that they are capable of way more than we give them credit for. They talk about, even brain-based research shows we can't test kids for IQ level under a certain age because they are learning at an IQ level that's beyond, it's so crazy that it's immeasurable until they get older because they haven't balanced out yet. You gotta think they're learning a new language, they're learning how to behave, they're learning how to be in society, they're learning how to follow directions. So my consistent challenge to parents, teachers, staff, everybody is meet them where they are and then take them as far as they can go. And there isn't a limit to that. We don't need to get to a space where if we have a kid that's already reading at 3, which believe it or not, they are out there, it doesn't stop there. So that is my job. If you're an educator and your goal is to light the fire in them and keep that fire lit, because oftentimes when you slow them down, it stifles that. It makes them turn into themselves, and
you also start getting discipline problems.
Exactly, because they're bored.
Yeah.
And they can't focus. So I just think the biggest thing is to meet your child, meet your student where they are, and then don't stop. If they need more, give them more. If they need a little less, give them less, because that's how we meet them where they are. We look at what they need and we go from there. At Strawberry Fields, we ability group our kids, so it's really nice because we don't have like a 2-year-old room, a 3-year-old room, a 4-year-old room. It's essentially differentiated instruction that's done a little more intentionally, and that's the goal, is to set up a system where you can offer differentiated instruction in a way that doesn't shame anybody or doesn't make any kid feel less than, and it helps with taking away, in the classroom you have spaces where it never fails. Your kids who know all the answers are answering every question, and then you have this whole population of kids that are missing everything you're teaching because the kids who already got it. So meeting those that you know are going to miss that space or are going to miss the mark first allows your instruction to pour out onto all the other kiddos who already know what you're talking about. So I just think really analyzing where your kids are and meeting them where they are. But that would be my challenge at any grade level. It's easier said than done, but truthfully, but
having that mindset is the first step.
Yes.
It's the first big step. If we go in and carte blanche say, oh, well, I teach 3-year-olds, which we don't do that at Strawberry Fields, but let's say if we have a class of just 3-year-olds and you think that every 3-year-old needs the exact same thing, you are very mistaken. You'll be very disappointed, and you'll go home the wrong kind of tired because you're just going to be fighting that all the time. Some of my favorite stories of kids, success stories, are kids that now socially they needed to be in the 2-year-old room, but academically they needed to be with those kindergartners, and we've seen that. And so we have to strike a balance with all of those things, and sometimes we have to talk with parents and get them on board And we've also dealt with a lot of multiples at Strawberry Fields,
Yes.
a lot of multiples. And just because they're multiples does not mean they're all on the same
far
level.
from it.
They're their own individual people. So, maybe we'll talk about all those multiples we've had in a future podcast.
I just think
We'll talk about those later.
Yeah.
But, you really do have to work hand in hand with the parents and have a relationship with the parents and understand that maybe this one needs to go into a little bit higher reading class, but maybe a little bit lower math class. Everyone has their strengths. I love what you said about meeting them where they are and taking them to as far as they can go.
Yeah.
Meeting everyone's individual potential does not mean making every kid the same.
Right. And it's like, I think the best way to think about it is like an advocate meeting. You're getting every one of that child's advocates on the same page. If I can be in a space where that my decisions for your child are rooted, as a mom myself, I expect everyone to make decisions for my child, especially educationally, rooted in love and respect and what's best for him. And it's so imperative to me that our parents know that that's what we're doing. We're all on the same team. And so then let's strap those boots on and figure out how to do it in a way that's going to benefit all of us.
So, kind of segueing into this one, what is one practice that you have personally put into place that has really made a difference in your school's culture, if you will? What has set apart and changed how Strawberry Fields culture is from any other place that you can think of?
I think it's kind of twofold. One would be staff-wise. My partner director at school, Danielle, has done such an incredible job of ensuring that our teachers know their kids. And I think that is the biggest thing, is we, down to one of the best activities we do, and I think you created it initially and we continued it, is every teacher gets a list of their class roster, and they have a little bit of homework, if you will, where they're going to list out one of the biggest, or one of their kids' interests. So they have to go through each student and list an interest, a weakness, how do they learn, what's the best way they learn, is it tactile, kinesthetic, visual, verbal, what is your favorite thing about this child, what's something you struggle with about this child. And Danielle just does such a good job of ensuring not only that they complete that, but that there is continued conversation after that, and that there's work that's put in post that list, right? It's one thing to just make a list, it's another thing to engage with your kids and put it into practice. I always tell my teachers, I want you to choose the child that's most, the word I use is difficult, but that's not necessarily the right word, but that we all have, human nature is you've got somebody that's a little harder for you than normal, and I want you to make them your mission. I did the same thing. I do it now with my teachers, because ultimately, if I look at my staff and I say, okay, who am I not as connected with? Who is the person here that I maybe struggle with on a personality level, and I make them my mission, my love and my energy is going to pour out onto everybody else. Well, it just comes naturally. The people who don't come naturally for you are the ones that need the most work. And oftentimes, as teachers, as administrators, we put all of our work into the kids that are easy because they're easy. And it's so simple. I would challenge you, even starting tomorrow, go into your classroom, go into your school, find the hardest person for you, and do not stop until they are your mission, until you have developed a relationship with them, until you have connected with them. If you take that person and engage with them, I promise you everybody else will fall into place. So I feel like with staff, that's the biggest thing. With parents, we have put one of our administrators into a place, they're responsible purely for family connections, and we will pay close attention to what's going on in our family's lives, and we will send a handwritten card or flowers or a celebratory thing, or when they have a new baby, we will send a onesie that says future Strawberry Fields kiddo or whatever. And I think the handwritten cards, I feel like, have been the most effective, because again, We're in the business of relationships.
And we're in an email and text world.
Yes,
So that
and
handwritten note really matters.
for sure, and just to be known. So if they have experienced a loss in the family, or we have a family who's finalizing an adoption, and so it's just our way to celebrate with them and to do life with them. Because you're not just a number in my building, and I refuse, no matter whether you're a student, a kid, an administrator, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make sure you know you're not just a number.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I would encourage anyone who was utilizing anything they heard today, is to make sure that your people know that they're your people. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tagging off of that, one of my favorite things, and I can take zero credit for this idea, this is completely yours, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite things you've ever done. And this is that when parents come to tour our school, because we are a private entity,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have lots of choices. So in a private entity, lots of choices out there. One of the things you do at the end of a tour with new parents is you give them a book. And that book is an absolutely brilliant idea. Can you tell me more about that book? Because I think it sets the tone with parents right away of the culture of Strawberry Fields. So tell us about that book.
Yeah, and it'd be an easy thing to implement even in your public school classrooms and those things too. We asked our parents to write letters to incoming families. What do you wish you would have known sending your kid to school for the first time?
So
Especially,
hard.
I feel like it would be so good in a public school setting for your parents with new kindergartners. Imagine how impactful it would be to receive a letter from a different parent of encouragement. And that's yes, and that's really the big thing is, what do you expect coming into this? What was your experience like at Strawberry Fields? What lessons do you wish you learned? And we just had so many incredible letters. One of them, the main one that's featured through the book, was written by one of our amazing mamas that has been with us. She's had 3 kids go through our walls, and it's just so
I love that
good.
family so
Yes.
much. I love them.
And Miss Andrea Foreman wrote just a beautiful letter that she allowed us to turn into some of the big illustrated pages of that book, and then there are countless letters from other parents back there as well. And it's just a really good way for parents to hear. I can tell you all day long that I love my school, and I love my school. I hope anybody who is listening to me knows. I feel so honored that, and I tell Randi all the time, it is 100% her school, but I love that place with like every ounce of my being, which is
We share it.
I
We share.
love
We
it.
can,
Yeah.
we can share forever.
It's like she had that first baby and I just took it under my wing. But I love my people. And so it's nice because I can tell you that until the day is long, but for you to be able to hear it from people
Other parents.
yeah, and who have experienced it from the outside looking in.
One of the things I love about one of the letters in that book that you put together beautifully and you illustrated it, one of the many talents of Rylie, you all may or may not have known. But one of the things that I love that one of the parents, I don't remember, it may have been Andrea, but one of the parents said something to the effect that you're probably going to cry when you drive away, but I promise you, your child has already stopped crying.
Yeah.
And it just validates the parental feelings when you drop your child off at a preschool. That is scary. And it just validates that feeling, and then says, now you go do your thing, let them do their thing, and everyone can shine. And I love that so much. And it just goes right back into the whole philosophy of, let's meet everyone where they are. And that includes our parents.
Yes.
Let's meet our parents right where they are too. They're scared. And we could have a whole podcast on types of parents at a preschool. And so I think it's very important that we're reading them just like we're reading our kids, and that's what that book does. I love that.
Yeah, I agree.
So what advice would you give a preschool leader or a teacher who wants to think bigger but isn't sure where to start? Like if you get a new teacher and you think, man, she's got so much potential, or maybe an administrator has so much potential, what is one of the first things you would tell them right out of the box?
So if we take relationship out of it, because I feel like I've talked about that till I'm blue in the face. So obviously, hopefully you know, develop a relationship with your people. But beyond that, I would start with best practices and incorporating best practices in a way that is tactile, kinesthetic, visual, and verbal. That's always what I tell my teachers, because before we dive into content is so multifaceted, which, as you know, especially working through Teach Big curriculum, there's so many different aspects that are mastered for you in many different ways.
Sure.
It's about the way that you implement. The way that you implement is going to be the effectiveness of what you were teaching.
Right.
If you cannot effectively implement, then there is no lesson out there that's going to be magical and change your kids overnight. You have to be able to teach it big. Exactly. Yeah, you have to, and the craft piece is the most overlooked piece. So if we start with, I want my teachers to come up with a way that you're going to walk your kids into your room, a way that you're going to get their attention, and your best practices for staying engaged and focused. And so for me, that's visual, verbal, tactile, kinesthetic, down to like, we're going to walk in the room and sit at our desk. And I'm doing like walking feet on my hand and then clapping my hands together when I say sit on my desk, so that they have the visual and the tactile kinesthetic for those instructions. If you are going to be giving rules or going over your expectations, I would like you to do that visually and verbally as well. I want you to give them a hand motion that goes with those expectations. Make them realistic, simple expectations that you can go back to.
What I love is everything you just shared is from the preventative standpoint, not from the reactive standpoint after a kiddo's done something wrong.
Every way.
You know, if we set this foundation up and the environment up, we've learned our content, we have mastered our craft, and we've made this environment of compliments, this culture of compliments be alive and well in our classroom, then discipline doesn't have to happen the way most of us have experienced it in the classroom. There's always outliers, there's always situations, but of course usually that goes back to, let's figure out what's going on at home, let's see if there's some kind of special thing we need to address. But it does take away the possibilities of the average kid when you're saying, let's walk in, and doing cute motions. I'm doing motions, by the way. If we're doing those motions and have those cute voices, I know you're also a master at many voices, and I love your voices. Maybe you should share some of those voices. It is a podcast, right?
It is a podcast.
But I love your voice jar. One of the things she does that I love that she does is a voice jar, and it has these popsicle sticks in it. And one of them says robot, one of them says mouse voice. I love a good British accent. British accents. And so she will let a student pick out of that jar, and then she will explain whatever the activity is completely in the character of that voice. And I love that. So I think maybe you should say a few little sentences or something.
That sounds so fun. Okay, so I mostly use it like if we're whole brain teaching and I'm going, a caterpillar chrysalis butterfly. Once they've learned it, then I will say, okay, now we're going to say it in our robot voice, and we will go egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly, and then we'll do it in our British accent. We'll do it in our whatever Southern accent. There's all kinds of different options, but it's mostly especially when I'm doing like repetitive content and I want them to do all the things. That's a good tip too. Is I always do that. Now we're going to say it super loud, and then the last thing I do is now we're going to say it super quiet. That way I get them refocused and they can re-engage. So it makes it's almost an attention grabber without having to do the whole I say macaroni, you say cheese. It's just a really quick way to get them going. But yeah, I do love it.
Yeah, I've always said the many voices of Rylie in the most fond way, of course, possible. So, if you had to leave listeners with one big thought about early childhood education in general, what would it be?
I think my biggest takeaway for it all is that early childhood is not just a stepping stone. It's not not an option even. It's not something we can just say, oh, she didn't have a good preschool foundation. I truly believe that everything we do in early childhood education is the foundation for what they will do in education the rest of their lives. Skipping over early childhood milestones means that you will, I can almost guarantee you, see those things re-arise and the gaps happen in their later education as well. So if you see a gap already, if you were an elementary school teacher and you see a gap,
let's address
stop
it.
what you're doing, go back and fill the gap in. Because until the gap is filled, there is no foundation to build on.
Yeah, that is so hugely important, and I think a lot of times we get caught up in we've got to get so much done, or this accomplished, that accomplished, oh, it's time to go to music, all those things. But making notes of, wait, I need to come back and talk about that again. Because honestly, if we can fill in those gaps with really good solid glue right now, then we keep saying the word foundation. I know that's important, but we really are. We're building a foundation that is solid and sturdy, and it's not just academic. It is social. It is everything. When they feel smart and when they feel confident.
There's this trend going around TikTok right now, where everyone says, "I almost forgot this was the whole reason," and it's like showing these small moments in life. And I think that is one of the biggest things when you're in the classroom is you get so wrapped up in the emails and the politics of education and all these little things, standardized testing, all of this stuff. And every once in a while, if you would just take a deep breath and look around your room, you'll realize that you almost forgot that this is the whole point. That everything you're doing in these aha moments and these pieces where you go home tired and the moments where you connect with a staff member that you've been struggling with, that's the whole point. That's why you do what you do. So don't be so caught up in the mundane that you forget that the reason you're here in the first place is standing right in front of you.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Okay, so I have a million more questions for you, but for right now, I really do want to thank you so much, Rylie. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you on the 10 bazillionth level. Don't you love my vocabulary?
I do. It's
being the language arts person, you think I could come up with something better than
I'll
10
take 10 bazillion.
bazillion.
It's the whole point.
Right. But I really do appreciate everything that you pour, not just into our preschool, but into the community and everything you're pouring into those kids. You're making differences. Like you said in the beginning, they won't even know where they learned it, but they'll know it, and it will pay off someday. And not just in a game of Trivial Pursuit, but it'll pay off in life. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Such a good conversation.
Oh, that's so good. We could talk like this all day. This is like slumber party talk for us. Yeah. So, well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. If this message inspired you, share it with a colleague, but better yet, make it happen in your own classroom and start teaching with your whole heart, your whole circle, and of course, teach big. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And until next time, teach big, think big, and believe in the greatness that's already within you.